Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Hello. Thank you all very, very much for coming along today. I appreciate it's a nice sunny day outside and it's lunchtime. So it's wonderful that so many of you are here. I think we have a very interesting session for you. You're going to hear from Diana about our really incredibly exciting plans for the North Campus. So Diana will talk to you a little bit about those plans. And Rachel really is going to talk to you as well and give you an update on the new leadership model that's rolling out in the university. And then we're going to keep most of the session for Q&A. And my PSLT colleagues are going to, or their deputies are going to join me up here on the stage, and we'll answer your questions as best we can. We're using this new technology, Slido. You can see the details up on the screen. Log into the website, put in the event number, and you can submit your question. We have had quite a few questions submitted already, which is really great. You can vote on the questions, and that means that we will tackle those questions that are of most interest across the audience early on in the session. So get your questions in there. If we don't get through all of the questions today, then I promise you we will come back to them. We'll come back to you with answers. And if you've submitted your question anonymously, then we'll find another way of publishing the answer so that you do find out in due course. So just a few words from me before we get on with the other presentations. Some things have moved on since the last set of open meetings in December. The work that Matt and colleagues has been leading on Our Futures conversation and consultation has now moved into a review of all of our feedback and consultation work, and we're beginning to develop some themes that will shape our new strategic plan that will support our new vision. And you're going to hear a lot more about that in due course, but I want to talk about just one of those streams that we're working on, and it's our people and our values. The overwhelming feedback from Our Futures consultation was about the way we do things in the university, the good and the bad. We felt that with our new vision and our new strategic plan, we wanted to very explicitly have people at the heart of everything that we do in this university. And I know that sounds obvious, but sometimes it's maybe important to just emphasize the obvious. So our people will be at the heart of how we think about our strategic plan for the next 5 years. And at the same time, we're going to establish our values together in this university. We do have value statements. They're in our current strategic plan, but in going around visiting colleagues around the university, they're not as well known. In fact, I'd say they're hardly known across the university. And our values are really incredibly important to us all. So we use the we royally, Rachel and Sally and colleagues are going to lead on a project over the coming weeks to enable every member of staff in the university to have their say about what makes this university special. What is this Manchesterness that we talk about that makes working here so special? And that work will help us shape our values. And we'll do that work over the coming months, and it will become part of our new strategic plan, which when we launch it later on this year. So I'm really excited about that work, and I would encourage all of you to participate when you have the opportunity. The other thing I want to encourage you to do today, if you haven't already done it, is to please complete the staff survey. The deadline is the 8th of April. completion rates are reasonably good so far, but it would be really fantastic if we could improve on the completion rates from 3 years ago. We'd like to get participation rates up to about 85%. I don't need to tell you how important it is to complete the survey. It's your one major opportunity every 3 years to have your say about how things work within this university. And if it needs to be said, I can assure you that your feedback is very important to me and to my colleagues, to all of our leaders and to all of you in the university. It does shape our action plans. We do respond to the feedback. And in a time where there are significant uncertainties, externally as well as internally, I think it's really important that we share our feelings and we understand how colleagues feel about how things are done in the university and that we improve them where we can. So I won't say any more about the university vision and strategic plan. As I say, I've told you a little bit about one of the 7 streams. You'll hear a lot more about the others in the coming weeks and months. It's just coming up to 6 months since I joined the university. I don't know where the time has gone. It's flown by. I've visited over 51 parts of the university so far. I think there are about 450 to go, but I'm making good progress. And I just want to let you know that I continue to be committed to the promise that I made to you all, which is that I'm very serious about engaging and communicating with colleagues right across this university. That's why we're here today. This university's success is built on each and every one of you, and it's only by working together with a common purpose that we're going to achieve our ambitions for this great university. And I continue to be struck by the feeling that I get from meeting colleagues all around this university about just how committed everyone is to the university. Yes, we've all got gripes about how this works or doesn't work, about issues that we face every single day, but there's a real deep commitment to this university and to this place, and to the difference that we make to people's lives. Everybody wants to make a real contribution. Everyone wants to be the best that they can be. And I think that's something that we will keep thinking of and talking about when we develop our professional services plan for this university in support of our university's strategic plan. How do we ensure that we have the right people in the right place doing the right things in an environment that is really supportive and high performing? So I think we have a great opportunity. I've mentioned the external uncertainties and I might mention them again quickly in a moment, but I think we've got a great opportunity. It's a pivotal moment really for the university, for the sector, for the country in many ways. But our new vision and our new strategic plan is going to set our direction for the next 10 years. And I think that's really quite exciting for all of us. Mentioning things externally, well, some things haven't moved on. Today's the 29th of March. It was meant to be an important day of some sort. We're going to have another meaningful vote this afternoon at 2:30 or 2:45. I don't know if anybody really knows what it is they're voting on, but I'll try not to be political. What will be, will be. The Augur report, though, is going to be very significant, and the latest information we have is that it's going to be published in May, after the local elections. And we're not certain about the recommendations that are in the report, but it is looking increasingly likely that there will be a significant cut to the headline student fee for home, and whilst they're still eligible EU students. And the figure that's been talked about is 7.5k. Now, we understand that the report will make a parallel recommendation that the Treasury should make up that difference. Well, I don't know what you think about that, but I'm quite sceptical about whether the Treasury will want or be able to make up that difference. So there will be financial challenges for the sector as a whole. We will have financial challenges as a university. We might talk about them as well later on that we will have to address, and we're going to have to work on them together. As challenging in some ways, I think, for us is that we have some internal issues to deal with. Our pensions USS scheme continues to struggle to find a meaningful, long-term, sustainable solution that provides high-quality pensions for everyone in not just this university, but everyone who's eligible in this university and for the sector as a whole. But it's unfortunately an ongoing problem that makes life difficult, I think, for everybody in our universities. And I hope that we will find a solution in the not too distant future. So that's it from me by way of a quick update on where we are. I'm going to hand over now to Diana, who's going to talk to you about the North Campus, and then Diana will hand over to Rachel Brealey. Thank you very much.
Hello. As Patrick said, I'm going to say a few words about our North Campus projects, which we're now calling ID Manchester, short for Innovation District Manchester, and you may have picked up bits about ID Manchester on the website. So just a little bit of the background to where we are and what we're doing. So the MECD project, you will have seen on site that it's going up now pretty quickly. It'll be finished in 2021 and we'll start moving people into the building. The move will probably take between 9 and 12 months in total. And thereafter, most of the buildings on the North Campus are going to be vacant. We recognised that as an opportunity some years ago, and we've been working on that ever since. But for the last, I guess, 18 months or so, Across PS Group has been working on the project. And it was launched very recently, the ID Manchester project was launched very recently at an international property conference. And the launch was to find an international quality joint venture partner that would be able to deliver with us a groundbreaking innovation district right at the heart of Manchester city centre. We believe this is an unparalleled opportunity in the UK. It's the biggest single consolidated piece of freehold land left in the city centre. And of its scale, it's bigger than most opportunities that will ever come to the UK market. So it's a real opportunity to create a game-changing and world-class neighbourhood. And our vision is that that is where innovation opportunities will be created. We want to create a world-class community where innovative and entrepreneurial businesses and the wider community will thrive and will be a global as well as a local success. It has a real potential to contribute to the local economy as well as the national economy. The whole development probably will be phased over a 10 to 15 year period. Very much depends what happens to UK PLC and whether we get one or more recessions within that period, but we're working on that sort of basis. And it'll accommodate a range of uses from workspace, residential, hotel, retail and culture. Potential to provide 3.5 million square feet of built space. And we think, as I said before, potential to contribute a large amount, potentially up to £2 billion to the local economy and around 6,000 jobs. So it is a real game changer for the city. To do this, we've had to have a formal procurement process. That process has begun, and whatever happens with Brexit, we're going through a European procurement process. And we're in the middle of some soft market testing at the moment. We're doing lots of visitor days around the North Campus, with a view to publishing our tender early in the summer. That whole process will take potentially up to 12 months. But the early indications from the people who want to come and visit and have expressed an interest to us is that it's very, very positive, and there's lots of interest both locally, globally, and locally, nationally, and internationally for very well-known and reputable companies who would like to become our partner. It's important that ID Manchester builds on the proud history of the ideas and discoveries that have taken place at the university, in particular at that part of the university, the North Campus. And it'll be a game changer because it will attract the most forward-thinking and like-minded individuals and businesses to establish at ID Manchester, and that will range from start-ups, scale-ups, and potentially up to global HQs who may want to relocate in that area. And they'll take on the benefits of that space, the sorts of neighbours they will have, the sorts of uses they will have. But we also hope it will be a space where the community at large can come and enjoy what we believe will be a very inspirational district of Manchester. So I'd like to finish by just showing you our film. You may already have seen it on your screens on your desk, but it looks so much better on a big screen. So if somebody could just press the button and run the film, that'd be great.
Manchester is one of the fastest growing cities in Europe. It's a city built on innovation. At its heart is the University of Manchester, a research powerhouse for nearly 200 years. It was here that the atom was split, the modern computer was born, and where graphene was first isolated. Building upon this rich heritage, we're looking for a partner to work with us to transform our city centre and create a new £1.5 billion innovation district. Welcome to ID Manchester. This is a truly international city with a unique talent pool, booming economy and diverse culture. ID Manchester is the most connected site in the north of England, adjacent to the city's major rail hub and future HS2 station. Unmatched in its size, scale and location, ID Manchester will be a place where innovation and business will thrive in a vibrant, connected and sustainable new neighbourhood. This is a unique opportunity to partner with one of the world's leading universities to create a new kind of innovation district at the heart of Manchester, the original modern city. This will be a place like no other, a place for innovators, a place for pioneers. ID Manchester, where ideas become reality.
Conscious of time and the fact that we want to leave plenty of time for questions, I'll just run through briefly the new leadership model process. So to start off, the rationale for why we've launched into developing a new leadership model, which really at this stage impacts the 3 faculties and DSE and some limited areas in other directorates. We've got obviously the drivers of SLP being rolled out, we've got the FSE restructure and a real opportunity to therefore rethink how we deal with student experience and to significantly improve our impact in that area. So the aim is to create much greater consistency across the university, to have much greater clarity of where responsibilities sit for different activities between centre, faculty, school, and ensure that we're delivering a much more consistent and high quality experience to all of our students. There are areas where in the past we perhaps haven't invested sufficiently, and we're looking really to see where we can gain efficiency in some areas in order to do better perhaps in areas where there's been a growth in demand. So things around student well-being is an obvious example where we're seeing an expansion in demand in the student support area that we would like to be able to meet above and beyond where we are at present. So we decided when we went into this restructure process that we would phase the change. That was for a number of reasons, the main one being that we really wanted to improve the way that we engaged and managed change. That was a key output from the staff survey. Staff said they didn't feel we managed change as well as we could, that engagement and internal communication could be better. And so as we looked at how we would approach the project, we decided that we would do it in phases in order that we could really ensure that we were having active engagement, two-way communication with staff involved in that change. The first phase of the leadership model, led by a steering group, which is essentially the 3 DOFOs and Simon Merriwest from the DFE, formed a structure around the grade 8 and 9 roles in that area. The formal consultation of that began in late 2018. There were 58 roles in scope of those changes. Some remained fairly similar. 25 new roles were created, and therefore a number of roles also disappeared, and there was a net loss of 9 roles across that overall structure. The emphasis in developing those roles was a much clearer route around the leadership of student experience and ensuring that we really did have that consistency of approach across the faculties and DSE. We have a few vacancies now being filled following the appointment process to those roles, so 2 head of school operations roles, 2 heads of teaching, learning, student experience roles are still to be filled. There are interims in place and transitional arrangements to ensure that we're covering those until that recruitment process can be concluded. Phase 2 of this is then to look at the grade 6s and 7s across similar areas of activity. That's a much larger cohort, around 500 staff will be involved in that, and we're looking at prompting that process now, so the scoping of that is being undertaken. As we've already started to do in FSE, prompted by the restructure, we'll be undertaking an active engagement process with staff who are in scope of that change. So we'll be running workshops, co-create processes so that everyone has a say and is actively involved in how we develop that structure and how we ensure that it's successful in delivery. Clearly, as part of that, we're looking at what's already being delivered through SLP, at the phasing of the implementation of SLP. And again, there's been enormous engagement from staff already across the university in the SLP process, for which we're extremely grateful. So everyone involved in that will have an opportunity to be engaged face-to-face through co-creates and so on. And our aim is therefore to bring proposals for structural change by the end of this calendar year. So that gives us a time in order to do that engagement. As part of that, we're also looking to reflect on lessons learnt from the first stage of the process and ensure that we consistently improve how we deal with that change process. We've also actively engaged with staff learning and development around training and development opportunities for staff in scope of those changes. That will include a new leading change development programme, something we've already delivered in FSC, which helps managers and leaders to assess how they deal with change and to support others through change. And also things like resilience training to ensure that people feel fully prepared for themselves dealing with change and taking others through that change. So I think that's all I have to say on that. I would just like to go back to recognition of the level of engagement that we've had so far and how informative and helpful that has been both in SLP and through the discussions we've had about process and structural changes to come. We can't do this as a leadership team defining what's going to happen. It has to be a joint effort where everyone who's engaged in that process helps us to define and deliver what the future's going to look like. Thank you.
You stay up here if you like. Okay, I'd like to invite my colleagues up onto the stage, please, and we'll do some introductions for those of you who don't know who the members of the PSLT are. So, as I said, we're using Slido, but that's not the only way you can ask a question. If you'd rather ask a question in the traditional way, put your hand up and we have some roving mics that will get to you so that you can ask your question live. Okay, so should we start, Malcolm? Should do the mics.
Director of Planning. I'm David Barker, Director of Compliance and Risk.
I'm Louise Bissell, Head of Tax and Financing, and I'm Steve Dauncey, Director of Finance for the day.
Hi, I'm Kate White, I'm the Director of Development and Alumni Relations.
Diana Hampson, Director of Estates and Facilities.
Rachel Cooley, Director of Faculty Operations for FSC.
Okay, great. Now you know everyone. Should we start? Is there anybody in the audience who wants to ask a question live before we go to Slido? No? Everyone's using Slido? That's great. Okay, the consideration of a 4-day working week. Where's Karen? I presume,
Sounds
is
fine.
this conditional on being paid for 5?
I was going to ask that question. Is that 4 days that should be 5, or everybody wants to just work 4 days and be paid for 4 days? I think that's an interesting question, in that I'm sure that in this room there are people who would choose a different day of the week when they wouldn't be working, which would make life a little bit difficult to arrange meetings, committee meetings. There will be, I think, quite a bit of frustration around. Where we are actually a very flexible employer, so where people are looking to reduce their hours or change their ways of working, we tend to be extremely accommodating, but we do have to think about the operational need.
Does that answer the question adequately? Okay. The second question has come up quite a lot since I've been here. And the short answer is yes, it will be addressed. The longer answer is about how it will be addressed. And this is related, I think, to what I said earlier about concerns across the university about how we do things. And there certainly are examples, actually both ways, where professional and academic colleagues don't necessarily treat each other with respect and trust. There are plenty of examples where they do, and it's a very good, close partnership working. But what we will be talking about quite a lot in our PS strategy, but it's also part of the university strategy, it's not just professional services, is that we work together in partnership. You know, the university's success is built on each and every one of us. It's not built on one particular category of staff, senior staff, junior staff, manual, clerical, academic, technical. Everybody together delivers on the ambitions of our university. And so putting our people at the heart of what we do, talking about our values, agreeing what our shared values are as a university, is all about tackling that issue as well as other issues as well. Okay. Who's representing Simon? There you are, Sarah. Sorry, I couldn't see you in the... Do you want to take on the next question about pastoral?
I was listening so much to what you were saying. So this question about understanding and comments on the proposals to change the pastoral system in halls of residence. I'm not sure in terms of how that's formulated. It actually is a question, but clearly the proposals are under consultation at the moment. I know that Helen McGlashan is working very closely with her colleagues in residential services on that consultation. And I think that in terms of the pastoral system, it's about how we're looking to improve the support that we can actually give to students on a more sustainable basis than perhaps is currently the case. I think that if Helen were here and she were responding to this, one of the things that she would say is that in terms of the proposals, these in no way seek to diminish the fantastic contribution that colleagues who've been involved in pastoral support to our students in residences hitherto, but is about actually coming up with a system which we believe is fit for purpose and can more easily support students and the increasing demands that we know that we have, particularly around well-being.
Okay. Thank you for that, Sarah. The next question I got, I think, is: we're asked to promote well-being to staff and students, but we're not given a budget to fulfil this. Do we plan to provide funding? Well, I think I can think of various categories of funding that contribute to well-being? I think this is quite a broad question. My response would be that well-being is going to be a key component of our people and our values. We were talking about it only earlier this week, Matt, talking about some early initiatives that would be a signal of how we're going to do things in the future. And some initiatives around well-being will feature very highly in that. So yes, in principle, it will be a priority for us. And if it is a priority, then resourcing should follow with it. But what the specific proposals will be, will work out in the coming weeks. Okay. So the second one down. Yes. This is an interesting challenge. Diana?
Pressure there. Okay, so there is a group that is chaired by James Thompson that has representatives from all of those directorates listed in the question. But to reach the 2038 target is going to be a real step change for the university. And so there'll be many of us working on how actually we can make that happen. But it will mean quite a change in lots of things for us, how we build things, but also how we procure things. But the interesting part of the question is it talks about the 4 directorates there, but actually meeting our carbon target is the responsibility of every single person in this room and every single person in the university, because we've looked at the amount of controllable carbon that we can actually influence, but the largest part is around behavioural change. And so we are going to have to do quite a big piece of work around behavioural change, and that will impact everybody, the way we do things, the way we purchase things. So it will be a big effort, it will be a step change, but I think it will involve everybody in the university to help us get there.
I also think there's a conversation to be had. We were talking about this yesterday in the context of the estate strategy about universities are not the same as other carbon producers. A lot of the work that we do contributes to improving the position in society more generally, and I think that should be offset against our carbon use. But that's not a widely held view, I have to say. Okay. The next question is about BAME staff operating at a senior level in the university. We've talked about this at a number of open meetings. It is a university priority, there's no doubt about that. There are action plans to improve representation and diversity in the university. I was at the Humanities Leadership Conference last night where we were talking about the very same issue. And we're making progress, so there's positive news to report. But if you work forward the rate of progress that we're making, it'll be a very long time where we get to proper representation. You know, it could be 30, 40 years, which really is unacceptable. So we will have to take more meaningful action, frankly, to improve representation. An example for me is that with the recent recruitment process for our new Director of Faculty Operations in Humanities, we specifically tasked the headhunters to identify the potential candidates from right across the higher education sector. And we had a list of 150 odd names, but literally only 5 were BME candidates. And that's quite shocking. And when I've talked about this before, one of the obvious suggestions that came back was that we should perhaps more actively look outside of higher education to improve our diversity. And that's certainly something that we're going to do. But Karen, I don't know whether you want to say any more about this.
No, I totally agree. It's very difficult and it's very hard to achieve the sort of diversity that we really feel we should have at the more senior level. We have to do more to improve the pipeline and the pool, the selection pools, and more to support people developing through the grade system as well.
Okay, thank you. So despite promoting ourselves as a global institution, Sorry, David.
There was another question in the list asking why we go external for senior posts, and part of that reason is particularly that one around increasing diversity in senior leadership positions, because if we just stir the pot of what we got, what we've got already, then we're clearly not going to make a significant difference over time.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm not familiar with what the scheme is that Newcastle has for guaranteeing study and work abroad. Oh, great, thank you. Do you want to wait for the mic? Thank you, that's great.
So I'm Tanya Love, Head of International Relations in Student Recruitment and International Development. So the comment, I think, comes from an article in the press last week where Newcastle was stated around having an underwrite for Erasmus students studying abroad. So just to assure colleagues, in 2016-17, when the Brexit vote came out, we recognised that there may be an impact on Erasmus students who might participate in a period abroad this year post-Brexit. So the university has actually undertaken a similar underwrite to support those students who will be participating in a European period abroad 19-20. We haven't promoted it extensively as yet, outside of those individual students that will be affected. We were under the impression that through the working towards the deal that there would be a nationwide underwrite. However, that has been rolled back slightly and will only protect those students who are currently abroad. So just to assure colleagues that there is an underwrite on behalf of the University of Manchester for the students who are studying abroad this year, and we're just in the process of making sure that that's provided to the students affected.
Thank you, that's really great. Okay, the next question is about efficiencies and meeting the target set for professional services. So very broadly speaking, there was a £15 million financial savings target put into the professional services plan a couple of years ago, Louise, I think? A couple of years ago. And that was very approximately 10% of the PS budget at that time. And there has been some progress towards delivering that savings target, so the SLP project, the New Leadership Model project, will contribute. And we're also looking at other ways in which we can do things more efficiently. And in the current budgeting round, we're looking at about 3 to 4 million of reductions in operating costs. But our longer term plan, I've talked about the PS strategy before, our PS plan. Our ambition is to design professional services in this university that enables everyone to be the best that they can be, that we have the right people doing the right jobs in the right place. And so there's quite a positive proposal around how we support you to do your jobs really well in this university, individually and collectively in teams. And so over the next 3 to 5 years, we will be redesigning professional services. We're in the middle of developing some design principles that we will consult and talk to you about that will shape our future design for professional services. And one of the outcomes of all of that work that's designed to help us do our jobs better will be efficiencies. That's going to be inevitable. And we'll see changes coming along in terms of technology advancements that will change the nature of the current jobs that some colleagues do in the university. And some jobs will disappear, but new jobs will appear because there'll be new types of roles in 5 years' time. So you may have already heard me say before that I want us to focus on people rather than focusing on jobs, because the jobs come and go. And if we have a focus on people and providing you with development opportunities, then if the job that you do today has disappeared in 5 or 10 years' time, you're ready for the new job that comes along at that time. So the efficiencies are something that we have to do because, A, it's the right thing to do. Much of our money is public funding, and we have an obligation to deliver value for that money. But also the reality is that funding is going to be more limited in the future. Olga is going to result in a reduction in funding for higher education in the UK, and we need to respond to that. So this is going to be an important component of our professional services plan, and you'll hear more about it through these sessions and through other communication channels. Fixed term contracts. Karen, would you like to take this one?
Well, I'm kind of a bit lost to know what you're actually referring to, because fixed term contracts should only be used where it is covering maternity leave, sickness, there is a finite funding arrangement in place, or it's a specific project. Sometimes we have used fixed term contracts where we know we're going to have a period of significant change, and therefore we want to minimise the impact on those staff who are in permanent roles on that in that situation, and that makes a lot of sense. Or where we're sometimes starting something very new and we want to test the water, although there's a question about why we shouldn't be committed, if we believe that's a good thing to do, why we shouldn't be committed with a more permanent arrangement. So I can't answer that any further without knowing anything more specific.
Jo wants to say something.
Yeah, so I wonder whether some of this, we're certainly having conversations in the faculty and in DSE around roles that are likely to be in the scope for the next phase of the student experience piece, so around the new management model. And just the latter point that Karen made there, really, where we are anticipating some future change potentially in roles and structures. In those areas we are using fixed term contracts, and that is very much part of the mitigation and part of our commitment to the trade unions, that we will try and mitigate where there is a potential reduction in headcount due to efficiencies delivered in those structures. So that actually affords protection to staff who are currently in post within those structures.
Okay, that's really helpful, Jo, thank you. The next question is a version on something we've touched on already. We absolutely do value our staff. I'll keep saying that. And we're committed to providing development and support to helping our staff make the next step up in their careers, to be ready for the next opportunity when it comes along. But that's not to say that we'll restrict recruitment to internal staff. That does not make sense, I'm afraid. I just don't agree with that. It creates all sorts of other problems, apart from issues with diversity. It results in an organisation that's too inward-looking. So I'm afraid that I do support the idea of people moving from one university to the next. I don't actually see that as a bad thing. I think career development and seeing new places helps us learn new things. And, you know, who knows, colleagues do come back. So, to me, there's no way we're going to restrict any promotions to internals unless there's strict legal or employment law reasons why we should do it. The Hive project. Karen, I think this is you as well. You were on Popular today.
Yes, the answer to that is yes. There were some good suggestions that came through the Hive project, so thank you for anyone who put ideas forward. We have presented a few to the trade unions, as you will be aware. Our policies and procedures, any changes or any new policies and procedures are either consulted or negotiated upon with the trade unions, and we have taken some of those changes to the trade unions. So I think it's just watch this space. It should be too long before you hear more about that.
Okay, great. The answer to the next question is yes, it is part of ID Manchester. It absolutely is, yeah. And it's one of the major attractions of ID Manchester. The next question I think I've answered, haven't I, about the 15 million savings? Okay. Flexible working. This isn't always translated into practice. How can this be addressed? I'll let you come in. I do think there's an issue about consistency in the university. This has come up many times in this context, but in other issues as well. We're so devolved in so many ways. We do things so many different ways in the university. You know, we seem to have 27 different ways of doing everything. And I think 27 was the original number of schools when this university was created. And it's a major issue for us. It's a major issue. It's an issue of risk, as we're discovering recently. It's an issue of efficiency. It's an issue of effectiveness. So having made that general point about the lack of consistency, Karen, you might want to say something about flexible working.
Very similar that I will acknowledge there is a lack of consistency across the university in how we put the policy, which is really a very good policy, into practice. So we're looking in HR about how we might be able to try and get more consistency, help and support managers with the decisions that they have to make, because we are one employer. Life isn't perfect, but we do know we need to make some improvements in this area.
Okay, thanks, Karen. The next point is a really important point, and it shows that I am prepared to change my mind. 1PS means something really important to me, but I've learned recently that there's a concern that 1PS could be interpreted as creating a divide between PS colleagues and academic colleagues. And that's absolutely not the intention. The intention behind the 1PS was to address the current highly devolved silo way of working that we undertake in this university. So I'm passionate about creating an integrated approach to professional services right across this university. Now, if calling that 1PS gives the wrong impression or wrong message, then we won't call it 1PS. We'll call it something else. You need to work with us and help us think about what to call it. I absolutely want us to be one University of Manchester. That's what we all want to achieve. Did you want to ask a question about it? Yeah, I can do, absolutely. Yeah.
So I have a question, Brian Tilfer. What are your thoughts about how we fund the development? It's in particular to PS staff inclusion. We have internal meetings, shows, stuff, whatever here, Manchester, surrounding areas. The PS staff don't get to access them. An example is there's an oncology meeting at the Hilton. Yeah, I was asked to attend. Yeah. Right to the last stage.
You emailed me about this.
Yes.
Yeah,
and then I was asked to pay £400 for my own meeting.
I'm shocked about that. I'm absolutely shocked.
But this would happen as well, particularly with business groups visiting, if we've got PS staff involved there. Should we have a system where if somebody's putting up a show in Manchester, and we're doing another big one in August for the cancer, worldwide cancer radiation, we have a few slots in there and go, can you invite some of your own staff?
Are there other examples of this where you've not been able to attend a conference, even locally?
The simple thing that's said is there isn't money to send you. And
yeah, but I'm just checking whether other colleagues have had a similar experience. You have? Okay. I mean, that shouldn't be the case, should it?
And my other add-on, as we're in Brexit mode as well, how did everyone find their meetings face-to-face with the staff since the last meeting? You said at the last meeting that the HR staff would attend one day with the rest of us in different areas.
Yeah, the back to the floor. Oh yeah, let's get some feedback.
How did that go?
Yeah. Do you want to give some feedback? Tell us about how your back to the floor experiences went. Joe.
Yes, so
you got the mic.
In BMH, myself and the now Deputy Dean Peter Clayton have been doing regular walkarounds around all the faculty buildings. We're finding it incredibly useful, not just meeting staff, but meeting staff in the place where they work on a day-to-day basis. And the feedback we're getting from staff is that they're finding it incredibly useful. And a lot of the things that have been raised are things that we're able to fix quite quickly. Some of them are big problems that we've said, well, yes, we'll feed that into the future strategy, and we can't fix overnight, but there are some quite practical things that we've been able to fix quite quickly. And we found there's areas where we may have seen maybe a paper at a faculty leadership team meeting about a particular group or a particular piece of kit or infrastructure, and consider that paper very carefully. But actually, it's only when you go out and you see the staff working in those areas, in those facilities or in those teams, that it starts to just put a bit of context around that. So it's been really, really valuable, and we've committed to carry on doing that in a rolling programme.
Okay.
to visit?
Yep. I'm visiting HR Services next month.
So I'm seeing quite a lot of parts of the university as part of the Our Future stuff. I mean, I'll talk specifically about PMO, which is the team that I now run, but historically I haven't. And
I'm just going to interrupt on that point. When people are using the acronyms, can they actually say what they are? I don't know what some of these...
Yeah, so...
I'll give you one more question, and then I'd like some other people to be able to contribute as well, please.
So the Project Management Office that sits as part of professional services, and what's fascinating when you talk to the people in that team and you talk in some detail about what they do on a day-to-day basis, it's how many procedures don't quite work, and how the people bridge across that and make stuff happen. But what I take away from that is, you know, the deep commitment of the people to get the job done, but equally the scope for, you know, if we just tweak that, if we just make that decision, if we just make that incremental improvement, you can really begin to move the dial on some of this stuff, and that really struck me. But as you said, inherent in your question, it's only when you really get to the detail that you unearth some of that stuff. So it's been a big learn for me.
Yeah, great, thanks, Matt. And your first point about not having even a reasonable level of funding to go and attend conferences just can't make sense. So I remember your email, and we are following up on that. I think I was trying to keep with the audience rather than having to answer the next question, the top of Slido. Well, I don't really know how to answer it, because, you know, we either trust people to do the right thing or we don't. If you can't regulate for this sort of thing, it seems to me, because if we, let's say we adopted that as a policy, then what would happen with the job evaluation methodology is they'd make allowances for it. So you'd pay people their expenses through their salary, and that's not sensible, it seems to me. Having a system that has clear expenses and being held to account for those expenses is the right thing to do. You know, we have grade 9 staff who go on recruitment exercises around the world. Do you want them to pay £3,000 or £4,000 for their airfares and hotel bills? I'm happy to be challenged on it if you want me to, but not more I can say about it. Okay, what's your main frustration with how UoM works now that you've had time to settle in? You know, this place is a world-leading university in so many ways. You look at what our colleagues are doing, making real-world differences. And it's incredible to be here. It's a privilege to be here. But I can't help feeling that we should be more world-leading, whatever that might mean, than we are now. You know, if we tackled some of the ways in which we do things, tackle, as we are doing, the investment in our systems, the infrastructure, be less risk-averse than we are, encourage innovation and risk-taking more than we do, don't be afraid to fail, have a go at trying something new, be more ambitious, then I just think we would be an incredible university. So I think the frustration is trying to create that momentum where everybody really genuinely believes that, and believes that you are, individually and collectively, empowered to do new things, to do things differently. You know, there is sometimes a sense in the university, and maybe it's to do with the way we're organised, where people look to up the line for somebody to make a decision. I'll tell you, the most frustrating thing I do every day is sign dozens of PCMs. There you go. If you want an example. What the hell am I doing signing dozens of PCMs every day when I can't add any value to it? That ratcheting things up through the line reflects either a lack of confidence or a fear of failure or a fear of not being allowed to make decisions ourselves. And you should all be able to do that. So in 5 years' time, that's what I would like to look back and think everyone feels genuinely empowered to do a really good job. Okay, 2 minutes. So, do you want to take one more question from the audience? Can I just deal with the second question that's here, and then we'll finish up for today? I think that's a really really important question, and we are discussing this right now. Matt's smiling because he's saying to all of us, we're developing a new vision, we're developing a new strategy. We're at risk of just piling on more and more new things to do. Where are we stopping doing things? Where are we making decisions about doing things differently to how we've done them in the past? And we've not got the answer. So that's a really important question, because there's a real risk that we fall over through too much change. We recognise that. So our intention is to, through the new way we're going to manage change, is to try and ensure that we can just cope with the amount of change that we have ongoing at any one time. Okay, can I finish then by thanking you all very, very much for your time today. I'm really pleased so many of you came along. Thank you for all your questions. We'll answer the ones that we've not got to. And can I wish you all a lovely weekend. Thank you very much.